All right, we're recording. So welcome, Slaven from Boxing Haven. Another day, another episode, as they say. How are you?
Yeah, yeah, I'm fine, thanks. How are you?
Hey, I'm well. I'm well. Can't complain. Almost at a Christmas holiday or whatever people celebrate. So to all, happy
Yeah.
holidays. New Year's amongst us very soon.
Mm,
Hopefully that opens some things up here midway
yeah,
through the next year so we can get back to some live boxing action potentially.
yeah, hopefully that
All
would
right.
be cool.
All right, I agree. So, big fight weekend just passed, of course.
Yeah,
The marquee fight was none other than super middleweight champion Canelo Alvarez. So he is now the WBC and WBA super middleweight champion with an absolute shellacking of Callum Smith, aka Mundo, who I thought would have a better showing, but apparently Canelo is just a level above, and he showed his class in a fight that I felt will probably be a standout fight for his career when it's all said and done. A lot of people are dogging it now, but Caleb Smith was no pushover coming into the fight, and I thought he had a legitimate chance. But Canelo proved that he is arguably the number one fighter in the world at this moment. And for my part, I consider him to be the number one fighter in the world. What were your thoughts?
yeah, definitely. I mean, he was very dominant, and it looked like, of course, Callum Smith. He tried to be, competitive, and he did throw punches, but he just couldn't really, get Canelo under control. So
Yeah,
he was just too fast and too good. And yeah, of course, as I expected, Callum went the distance, but yeah, he did receive some beating, but yeah,
yeah.
I guess he won a couple rounds, maybe one or two. I don't know.
Well, I scored it, and I really didn't give him a round from my own perspective, but of course, that's
Yeah.
just one person's view. But I could see where he may have gotten a round in, maybe a round, but I thought that was being generous because the sharper, crisper, harder, cleaner puncher was without a doubt Canelo Alvarez. And when they showed the CompuBot stats afterwards, Canelo was in the 200 plus range to around 60 something there are about for Callum Smith, which was even more mind boggling. And Canelo, or rather Smith, was the bigger fighter. He had been at 168. He's considered a huge 168, 168 pounder. Being that he's 6'3", he's very long. He is on the leaner side in some regards, but still, he is a big guy. And Canelo at 5'8" seemed to be the thicker guy. You can see that he's really taken on that 168 pounds very well, and he, for the most part, just bullied Smith, who in the past has shown some form of resistance with the likes of George Groves, the way he knocked out
Mm,
Hassan Ndan, who won't be confused with being the best fighter in the world, but he's still a solid veteran fighter. The way he knocked him out was
mm,
a pretty nice and magnificent knockout. And I
yeah.
thought at least some shades of that Caleb Smith would show up in this fight.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it's he has just outgrown that division, and maybe it was simply the stress of making the weight was probably what also made him quite well. Let's not say, oh, well, at least not at his best anyway. And yeah, he did say that himself that he has outgrown the division, and yeah. Then there was also some kind of talk about an injury I understand
Oh yeah.
also. So now yeah, some people I've talked to said that, I mean, one guy that I talked to today was kind of disappointed that he kind of made that excuse. Well, I say it's not easy taking your first loss, right?
Yeah.
You know how it is. These fighters, they still have an ego, so
Yeah, I think his pride may be injured more than anything, but time
yeah,
shall
that's right.
tell.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I saw people were making, or at least making light of, I guess you can say, the fact that it was 4 weeks' notice, as if that was some form of a disadvantage for Callum Smith. And I don't know. Only Callum will know that. He took the fight. I'm sure he took the fight with the
Mm.
knowledge that it was 4 weeks in. He knew where he was from a physical, probably even mental standpoint and conditioning standpoint. So he had the same 4 weeks that Canelo had. What do you make of the thought that this 4 weeks could have played into the fact that Smith wasn't able to perform?
I don't know. I guess the stronger factor is that the fact that he had to, come over to San Antonio, which is probably
Oh
pretty
yeah,
far away from Liverpool, where
yeah,
he
that
is
is true.
from. So that is not easy. I think for someone, especially who isn't so used to traveling and fighting far away from home. I don't know. I think he's had like two fights maybe outside of UK. I'm not sure, but
Mm.
he hasn't had so many anyway. So I know the Groves fight was in one of those big oil countries.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. The neutral site. Yeah, yeah. I do
So,
recall
but
that as part of the Super
yeah,
Series.
but I don't know if it's 4 weeks. May have not played that much part, but I of course, as you said, only he knows that. So
Yeah, and he looked to be in pretty good condition just from the view of
yeah,
things.
yeah, definitely. Um, yeah, I mean, maybe he kind of looked a little bigger or in better shape against Groves, for instance.
Oh yeah,
But anyway, yeah,
yeah. That was probably his best performance to date. Now
yeah.
for Canelo, I saw this funny picture. He has now knocked off the Cotto brothers, knocked off the Smith brothers. There's still those two Charlo brothers that remain, so we'll see where
Oh
that
yeah.
leads down the road. But a lot of the big talk has been Canelo taking on potentially Billy Joe Saunders, Triple G, of course, which I presume would be at 160. And Canelo at least had some comments that alluded to him wanting to, I guess, stay at 168 at least for the time being. And then
Mm.
there's the outside shot of Demetrius Andrade as well as Jamal Charlo. What do you think would be the most intriguing fight?
Well, of course, Jamal Charlo, perhaps. Yeah. Oh, but I would like to see Canelo fight Saunders just because Saunders is undefeated and he's kind of, he's got skills. So he's a tough guy too. So,
Oh yeah,
but of course, it will be hard for Saunders to win because he's not such a hard puncher, and I don't think he can ever stop Canelo. So when it comes to Demetrius Andrade, well, I don't know. He too is undefeated, but he is known for sometimes, having a little bit boring fights, perhaps not always being so exciting. Yeah, but yeah, I would like
yeah,
to see any of those fights. Yeah.
I'm in that, I guess, minority who wants to see the Andrade fight, and I know a lot of people view it as, or view him as a fighter that is not often exciting. I beg to differ. I think his boxing skills make up for that, and it would be an interesting style clash for him and Canelo. I think that
Yeah.
the Billy Joe Saunders fight has a potential to be a sleeper as well. And I know we were having a discussion on this. I think Billy Joe Saunders. I'm more of an a what have you done for me lately? And I know this could be applied to Andrade as well, but Andrade has looked good in all of his last few fights. Billy Joe Saunders, on the other hand, has looked okay. I guess you could say okay. He just defeated an older and I would say shot worn, but I just think a level below Martin Murray, who's always been at that title level, but not quite able
Mm.
to surpass and actually win that title. And so he had I guess, okay average performance against Martin Murray. And I don't know how much of that was him sort of playing down or fighting to Martin Murray's style and what Murray could bring at this particular point. But Billy Joe Saunders, he seemed to have been doing a lot of talking as of late over the last few years, and really want to see more action. I want to see him do something that actually warrants him getting that Canelo fight, and that fight with Lemieux was back in 2017, which is his best performance.
Yeah, I mean, being undefeated is not enough, of course, to say, "Oh, I have the first claim to fight Canelo or whatever." But yeah, I agree. I mean, now at this weight, well, he may not be. I don't know, maybe not as good as he was at 160. So, and that again we come to that power problem. His power was not so great at 160. At
Yeah,
168, it will be really, kind of very, I don't know what to say, weak or at best
yeah, somewhat
average,
limited.
maybe. Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, I can see that. I can definitely agree with that, and I think it showed somewhat, but we'll see. I think when you step up to that Canelo level, it is a completely different story. But hey, we'll see what happens. There's also chatter of, or at least before the fight, when in discussions with Eddie Hearn, he mentioned that Billy Joe Saunders versus Demetrius Andrade could be the fight that took place next. And I actually asked him a question. I asked him that question on the Zoom media call prior to the Triple G fight. It was actually for a Triple G in that card, and he seemed pretty keen on the fact that Billy Joe Saunders Andre fight could theoretically be the next one, especially if
mm,
the Zone and Matchroom and Canelo and his group push for that third Triple G fight, which is the fight that I know that Matchroom and the Zone has been wanting since Canelo initially signed that deal with the Zone.
yeah. I'm not so keen on a third Triple G fight, because I don't know. At this point, yeah, Triple G looked good now in his last fight, but it was an opponent who is significantly below Canelo in class, right?
Yeah,
So
definitely.
I don't know. I mean, if he wasn't able to get the decision against him in his first two fights, how is he gonna do it now at 38? So
Yeah, that fight, which I think his name was Sarah's Meta, and
yeah,
he
yeah.
in 21 fights he only had 5 knockouts, so he wasn't necessarily a threat from the power or punching standpoint. He
Hmm.
seemed to be an okay boxer, but that was thwarted within a minute or early
Yeah,
on in the fight.
he was fighting mostly Euro level fighters,
Yeah.
or maybe only before Triple G. I'm not sure, but yeah, he
Yeah,
was
I think
kind of
that's
sold as a good boxer, but yeah, he
Yeah.
definitely was more like Euro level,
Yeah,
fighter.
Triple G threw that completely out the window. So yeah, I thought
Yeah,
that G looked okay. And I think that there is, I think you have a point with the fact that now at 38, what more can Triple G really do to
yeah, and
thwart
so
what it is that Canelo is bringing, especially that Canelo that showed up in
yeah,
the Callum Smith fight, and if this was at 168, which I'm not sure if Triple G wants to go there because during the press conference, I know he said he feels he has unfinished business at 160.
yeah. I mean, and by the time that fight would happen, anyway, he would turn 39. Actually, I think he's born in April,
Oh,
so
okay.
in 4 months he's 39. So yeah, but of course, age may not be so. I mean, so important, but still, he's not. I think he's no longer the same guy, definitely, that he was like a few years ago. So
Yeah,
he still has the power, of course, and he's a tough guy. But it's the legs, as they say, the stamina, which may
yeah.
be now weaker. Yeah,
Yeah, a lot of people were pointing that out that as that fight went on with Sirius Meta, or I know his first name's
yeah,
Camille, as
yeah.
that fight went on with him, Triple G did look somewhat a little winded. Now, I know he looked
Mm,
in phenomenal shape, for the weigh-in and everything prior to that. But you are correct. At 39 years old, he can he pull it off against Canelo, who's 30 and very much still in his prime, and by all accounts looks to be getting even better and better as the fights go on.
yeah, definitely. I mean, he's still in his prime, and he looks stronger than ever. And I don't want Triple G to get knocked out, like
Oh
like
yeah,
Sergey Kovalev did. And he didn't need that fight really, but I guess he was very confident after beating Anthony Yarr, but he never should have
oh
taken
yeah,
the fight either. He was simply too old to keep up because you saw when they entered the championship rounds, it was then that he was knocked out. So before that, he did well, of course, but I think
yeah,
the
yeah.
same,
You're right.
the same could very well happen to Triple G if he fights Canelo again. I
Yeah,
think,
I could see that. I could see that as well. Yeah, just based on the way Canelo is looking, and I think that that mystique of the first fight and pretty much the second one as well probably wouldn't be there as for Canelo in terms of his view of Triple G, who was
mm,
basically this world beater prior to running up against Canelo, and they had two very, very good fights, very close fights. But
mm,
yeah, time has gone on, and as they say, time waits for no man.
father
Now,
time.
yeah, yeah, without a doubt, waits for no man.
Yeah, it's
Now, I
like,
know.
yeah.
Oh yeah, yeah. Go ahead.
No, I was gonna make a comparison to maybe not so good, but Evander Holyfield versus James Toney.
Oh yeah.
After afterwards, Jim Gray asks Holyfield, his father time catch up with you?" And he just goes, "No, no." It's like he was just able to get off before I didn't. He just would
Yeah.
not admit it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And Father Time surely had caught up with him well beyond that
Yeah,
point, and it was amazing that he was even still fighting at heavyweight in those days. And of
yeah,
course, talking about coming back now, even though maybe in the exhibition capacity, which I think would be interesting to say the least,
well,
because he's always been a hard worker and always in tip-top shape. So that would make it
yeah.
interesting if he and Mike were to do it.
He's a true specimen, no doubt.
Without a doubt.
Yeah,
Now, I know since we last talked, another big fight that happened was that Anthony Joshua versus Kubrat Pulev.
Yeah.
No, you were able to catch that knockout. It was sensational ninth round. Of course, Joshua had the WBA, IBF, and WBO world titles on the line, which he ended up retaining in what was, I felt, a pretty decent performance for Anthony Joshua. There were a lot of people critiquing it, but I thought he showed that he was the better fighter from round one onward, and he did what he had to do to get the wily veteran out, who has always shown to have a tough chin, only being knocked out by Vladimir Klitschko, and we know that
Mm.
Joshua was able to stop him. So I thought it was a very decent showing for Anthony Joshua.
Yeah, it was. It was definitely. I mean, he barely. I mean, Pulev barely got in any punches. There were just a few smaller punches that he landed. He just looked completely outclassed, and yeah. I mean, but I did expect that because both because he's 39 and
Yeah,
because the only fighter of Joshua's caliber that he fought was Vladimir Klitschko, and it didn't go so well, of course. So
yeah. I admit that you had called it. You pretty much were spot on with your prediction of what would happen. I thought Pulev would make it more of a fight, and he was in there throwing, and he showed that for one
yeah,
thing, he does have a chin on him, but eventually, I think it was a mixture of him taking the damage, him being worn out, unable to really land anything of significance on Joshua, and Joshua clearly being the stronger puncher of the two.
mm,
And it's a
yeah,
good little highlight reel knockout for Joshua to add to his collection.
yeah. I think it's simply since Pulev is a tough guy, no doubt. It was quite impressive. I mean, the fight could have even ended in the third round, as you saw,
Oh
because
yeah,
he turned his back, and some guys are saying in some country that would be the end. Like when you turn your back, then the referee
yeah,
waves
that is
your
that is
foot.
very much true. If had, yeah, I think I said this before. Had the ropes not been there, he probably would have ran clean out of the arena.
Yeah. So, but he survived until the ninth round, and he was barely in the fight. As I said, he did do some wrestling and stuff, but yeah, even there he was just overmatched. And but I
Mhm.
guess it was about his final big payday, so that was that was it for him. Yeah,
Yeah, I agree there. So we'll see if he just opts to go ahead and hang it up from here because his there I don't see any chance of him getting another title shot, which is I know what
no,
he had been aiming for, and pretty. I have to give him his props, given that time between that Vladimir Klitschko fight. I know that's been a number of years now. He was able to work his way back up and actually ended up getting another title shot, which kudos to him, title shot and that last big payday. So, yeah, we'll
mm,
see where he goes from here. But as far as Anthony Joshua, of course, the fight that everyone was clamoring for and talking about now is without a doubt him taking on Tyson Fury to become the undisputed heavyweight champion of the world, with Fury holding that WBC and the quote unquote lineal title and claims
yeah,
to such, as well as that ring title, which I have to throw that out there as well. So that should be an interesting fight. And a lot of people have already come out with their predictions, of course. And
yeah,
I think that the odds are going to be highly in Fury's favor. But I like Joshua just from an overall standpoint, and I think some people still are holding that Ruiz fight, or yeah, that Ruiz fight towards him. But I think that stylistically, it's a different fight with Tyson Fury, though Tyson Fury should, of course, be the favorite.
mm. Yeah. He is favored, and I guess many uh, consider him as the people's champion or
Yeah,
something
yeah,
like that.
yeah.
So it's kind of of course, it's very difficult to fight him because with his size, when he starts swinging at you with those big arms,
Oh
it's
yeah,
quite hard to get away from that. But of course, I do think Joshua has a chance. I mean, maybe the best chance to beat Fury.
yeah.
As I said once before, also here in this podcast, I believe.
Oh yeah,
So yeah, I I think if anybody can do it right now, anyway, of these fighters who are in contention, that's yeah, most likely Anthony Joshua.
yeah.
Yeah,
And people can't compare Deontay Wilder versus Fury to Anthony Joshua versus Fury one because Anthony Joshua is a much better boxer than Deontay Wilder, and that clearly
yeah,
showed in both fights with Fury. Because for me, I didn't have, and I only had Deontay Wilder winning the 2 rounds in which he got the knockdowns between
mhm,
both fights he had with Fury, which says a
yeah,
lot about his skill or lack thereof in comparison to Joshua, who legitimately can box, and he showed so in the Ruiz fight. And a lot of people didn't like the fact that he took that route, but he pretty much
yeah,
outboxed Andy Ruiz, who was unable to get in and get one of those shots that he was able to get in that first fight. So I think that makes it interesting for Fury. In that interesting for a Joshua Fury matchup for all the things you mentioned, and also the fact that Joshua, he does have some pop to him, and Deontay Wilder was barely able to connect with Tyson Fury in the first fight, and in the second fight, the times that he was able to connect with him, he didn't really do much damage to Fury, or Fury just pretty much ate it. So I think that Joshua fight is very much interesting, more interesting.
yeah, definitely. Yeah, and I think for Joshua it would be also the first time that he would fight a guy bigger than him. I don't know if he has
Yeah.
ever fought anybody like that. So yeah, I mean, he would have to definitely box more, use more of yeah, his skills.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah. Without a doubt.
So
Yeah, that is interesting. Yeah, I think that yeah, will be the biggest fighter he's faced. And thinking about it, yeah, there's not a lot of guys bigger than Fury right now. There's that
yeah,
Chinese heavyweight that Matchroom has signed. He's like a big guy. I want to say he's close to 7 foot. So he might be the only one that is bigger than Tyson
yeah. And
Fury at this moment.
they are very slow. You know those 7 foot guys
Oh yeah, yeah.
like Valuev, for instance. If you remember, he was like a big mommy. You know. So
Yeah. I saw a posting on Facebook today. Someone was asking who was the best tall fighter. I mentioned Valuev. I was more so being sarcastic, but I'm pretty sure they're going to take it
yeah.
serious.
No, but he simply, yeah, he did have some success, but that was because the division was so weak back then. Yeah, and
Yeah,
it was
yeah.
funny. He was beaten for first time by a 6 foot guy. I think that Chagayev. He was only
Oh
six
yeah,
foot six.
Ruslan Shagayev.
Yeah,
And he actually should have lost to the older Evander Holyfield as well, who
yeah,
outworked him. He let the older Evander outwork him,
yeah.
which
That was funny.
no, he was a big guy, so I don't think he had
Yeah, but
too many moves.
yeah,
Mhm.
there is big and there is too big.
Oh
So
yeah,
he's one
yeah,
of those too
yeah. And
big.
I remember David Hay hurting him.
Yeah,
Just recall that.
yeah. That's in 2009, I believe, or 2010. That was when Hay won his only heavyweight belt.
Yeah,
That was a very, very a guy that looked like, and of course talked like he was gonna be the next, the biggest is Muhammad Ali, but he really failed to live up to that, of course, miserably.
Yes. He talked his way into that Klitschko fight, and it ended up being his
Yeah,
total waste. And the fact that he took
and
off his boot afterwards made it even worse for him.
yeah,
I feel he
yeah, that,
redeemed himself against Tony Bellew by fighting injured, and so some people, kind of gave him that redemption.
yeah, yeah. I think it was a shame that he didn't fight Fury, when they were supposed to. I believe that was 2014 or something.
Mm.
So
Oh yeah, that would have been an
after
interesting one.
all that talk and all the all the
Mm-hmm.
show, all the yeah, then it
Yeah,
just fell through.
yeah, he's an interesting character. Definitely an interesting character.
Yeah,
It's funny
that's
he's doing his management thing now. So cool to see him. I see him all the
yeah.
time on I guess Sky Sports or Box Nation, one or the two. So yeah, he does a pretty good job in commentary, I would say.
He's now the manager of the guy that he had a fight with, Derek
Yeah.
Chisora, the most infamous fight in European boxing history, anyway, I believe.
Oh yeah, yeah. That is funny. Yeah, he did. He is his manager. And that reminds me, I know Tyson Fury, he did an interview recently. He was saying ideally for him, he'd like to have that Anthony Joshua fight. Excuse me, and he wants to end his career with the fight with Derek Chisora. I guess a
Mm.
rematch they fought before
That would
and
be the third
call
match.
it oh,
Brother.
third match. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
yeah. So that's how he wants to end his career. At least that's what he said in the interview.
Wow, that was a surprise to me, but I guess he wants an easier fight to end his career with, uh, because
Yeah.
those first two with Chisora were kind of disappointing because Chisora, he really talked tough before the fights, but he just didn't do that much. And in the second one, he was stopped. It was, well, a corner stoppage, but anyway,
Okay.
he simply found out that he is too small for Fury
Oh
to
yeah.
really, do damage. Too short.
Yes.
He simply was 6'1" or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So it'd be a funny the press conferences leading up to the fight. I'm sure would be very entertaining. If it were to happen.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. And one more thing I see, maybe you have seen, I posted that interview with Joshua. I'm not sure. It was from yesterday, maybe, I don't know, where
Anthony
he
Joshua.
yeah, he states that he will knock out Fury. So
Oh yeah.
yeah, he made a
Hey.
bold statement.
I saw some old interview where Tyson Fury was giving him props as being a hard puncher or a strong fighter
Yeah.
back when they were sparring when Joshua was a bit more green. So
Hmm.
I think there's potential there for sure. It's not something I would necessarily bet on per se, but could it potentially happen? Yeah, it potentially could. It would be a
Hmm.
matter. I think it probably have to be more so an accumulation of big shots because I would have
Yeah,
to think that I would have to think that uh, Wilder's biggest punch would probably be equal to or equal to or somewhere in that same neighborhood is probably Joshua's biggest punch. I would think, Wilder's right hand, since that is what catapulted him per se.
yeah,
So, and Fury did. Hey, he took that. He did get back up, regardless of the complaints of it being a long count. I thought he got back up, and that
yeah.
shook Wilder a bit. So the possibility is there. I wouldn't necessarily bet on it.
Yeah, I don't know if, well, I can see, of course, Fury getting knocked down a couple times against Joshua. I think it would likely happen. At least
Yeah,
one knockdown. Because Joshua is kind of more athletic, I guess, than Fury.
yeah,
Uh, yeah, a better mover and that stuff. But I don't know. It would take quite many knockdowns and a lot of beating to stop Fury, I believe.
yeah.
But I can
Maybe.
see, Fury. I mean, Joshua winning on points that way if he,
Oh yeah,
scored a couple of knockdowns and was simply more effective with his punches and yeah,
yeah. And maybe Joshua could potentially bust him up, sort of
yeah,
like Otto Wallin did. And who knows? That could be a possibility. Assuming something happened that
yes,
led to a stoppage, which you never
yeah, that's
know.
true. Well, we can hope that fight happens anyway next year. Yeah,
Yeah. So I don't know where this leaves Deontay Wilder. I know he had mentioned filing some sort of a lawsuit, and maybe he actually did. I think I read something where some litigation towards the rematch or whatever that Wilder and his team may have put out there was denied by some judge or something. Don't quote me on it, but I could have sworn I read something of that nature. But I don't think anyone's really clamoring for that third fight with Fury outside of the diehard, somewhat delusional Wilder fans at this point. So I think he should look to take on the likes of a Andrew Lee's or Dillian White in or the Dillian
mm,
White Alexander Povetkin winner should that fight happen, or if
yeah,
Povetkin can't fight, then maybe he should just step in and take on Dillian White. But I don't know where Deontay Wilder's head is, especially since that video he released. He seems to just be in a state of no
delusion.
return as far
Yeah,
as redeeming himself from the
oh,
accusations
yeah.
he's made.
Yeah, I mean, once again, as I said about taking your first loss, and especially in that manner that he lost to Fury, he
Yeah,
simply, it seems like he blamed everyone else but himself. He blamed his
the
trainer, he blamed his manager, he blamed everyone
he
almost.
blamed his suit.
Yeah,
But yeah, the fact that he was actually claiming Vreeland spiked his drink is just like
yeah,
he's just blasphemous right now with some of the stuff he's saying.
that's crazy. Just, I think he was, yeah, he might have some kind of, I don't know, problem. Yeah, but I mean, he was simply. It was bound to come. Of course, there was. Of course, he still claims that Fury used something under, on his gloves, and
Yeah, it's,
I think that has already been proven as false. But he still kind
well,
of clings.
he's got these social media guys out there peddling it for him
Yeah, they are like, oh,
ridiculously.
no, Fury, he
Playing this
used
picture.
something.
Look at this
Yeah,
picture, and it's
yeah,
like
he
they're as
cheated.
delusional as him.
Yeah, because that's the only way he could have, done that to Deontay and that stuff. That just, yeah,
Yeah,
crazy.
it is the funniest thing. So yeah, we'll see what happens with Wilder. He's had that belt for so long. He's in the short circuit now that he doesn't have it anymore, and he can't use that as any form of leverage. So it'll be interesting to see what he does from here.
Hmm.
But I think that if he were to take on someone else like a Ruiz or some of those other guys right there in that fringe spot, then it could make for interesting
Hmm.
matchup, and it could tell us where he is mentally.
Yeah, Ruiz. I mean, even no, sorry, Dillian White would be perhaps a good brawl because I know White would
Yeah.
go all out and yeah, He's
Yeah,
he
and White would travel. White would travel to him. He's been clamoring for it for years,
yeah.
and
So
Wilder hasn't. He
why not?
should have fought him 2 years ago. Like what the heck?
Yeah, why not? I mean, he
WBC.
yeah, and he's a guy that also has some power. I mean, he can punch. What? He's maybe not as hard as Wilder or Joshua, but still good
Oh yeah,
enough.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. I know. I did see something where Luis Ortiz has thrown his name into the mix as far as facing Dillian White if Alexander Povetkin doesn't do this rematch. And I've
yeah,
heard some people making some interesting predictions towards it. I've seen a lot of people leaning towards Ortiz, or at least some of the people that I've interacted with on Facebook. But I favor Dillian White. I just think
yeah,
that he has the potential of getting something mid-round or late, a la what happened to Ortiz in the Wilder fight. I think that could happen with Dillian White as well. And of course, Dillian White can, as he saw in this last fight, he can be knocked out as well if he's
yeah.
lackadaisical.
And with one punch, that was pretty amazing.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it was.
yeah. White is yeah. He's been waiting so long for a big fight, so now I guess he got a little bit rusty. um,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, I know he's
So
kicking himself over that.
yeah. Yeah, but that stuff always can happen, especially when you got a guy with so much experience as Povetkin and yeah,
Yeah.
strong guy.
But yeah, a lot of people are sold on yeah, Ortiz, as I was mentioned. I don't know. I think that
He's too old, I think, now, by now.
yeah, that and his best win, I was looking it up, is Bryant Jennings, which okay, it's a decent win. Brian Jennings is he's an okay heavyweight,
A
made it to
gate.
that top 10 area. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
he's a gatekeeper, and he's not the type that has a high motor or anything of that nature. From what I've seen, at least when he
yeah,
needs to do something to change the outcome late, he doesn't seem to change pace. So that's Ortiz's biggest win if you look at his resume. And
mm,
outside of that, he really hasn't beat anyone of significance. The names that he has beaten, he was supposed to beat them, and he was the favorite, and he won as expected. But outside of that, he lost to Wilder in those two fights. So I think a lot of people
yeah.
are
Even though
still sort
he,
of
yeah, even though he
yeah,
was good before he was
yeah he
knocked.
was yeah he was good. I think and he's still very much a good boxer, but I think a combination of age
Yeah,
and sort of where he's at now in his career, yeah, I can
yeah.
see them having him top 10, but I don't view him as that as huge a threat as some.
No, not anymore. Anyway, after he was knocked out for a second time. The first
Yeah,
fight I remember I watched it. It was pretty close, and yeah, he did have Wilder in trouble against the ropes.
yeah,
I
yeah, he did.
think in the eighth round or something, seventh or
Hmm.
eighth. So yeah, he. But now he is just too old, I believe, and too slow, kind of not
Yeah,
so fast on his feet. So yeah, that's
yeah,
why Wilder. I guess that's why Wilder was able to knock him out twice.
yeah,
So
without a doubt. And another thing, and of course, it's his prerogative, his overall choice. He can do what he wants, but I can't help but question the fact that uh, Ortiz, he could have been in that same spot that Andy Ruiz was, but he refused to take the fight. And what would have been his biggest payday, along with the shots at the titles,
mm,
he refused to take that. He refused to take that fight. He ended up, of course, facing Wilder for less than what he would have made in the title shots for multiple belts with Anthony Joshua, and of course with Ortiz having had situation in the past as far as PEDs. I can't help but question that, but I don't know. But I just thought that was, and you know his story, and he has the daughter who has some type of issues or special needs or whatever, and you just have to question his ultimate gain was getting at a title. He wouldn't take that Joshua fight and his biggest payday.
Yeah, that was weird.
And we saw what happened. Look what it did for Andy Ruiz, in terms of
Yeah,
his popularity.
that was a huge shock, huge upset. And but
Yeah.
of course, I knew that Andy Ruiz had the potential,
Oh yeah.
to do something big, but I didn't expect him to do it against Joshua so much,
Yeah.
because his hand speed has always been what really set him apart from the other heavyweights. I don't
Yeah.
think
Yeah.
any other heavyweight has such fast hands. So,
Yeah. Yeah. You may be right. Yeah. Right now. Yeah. Definitely. I can't think of any super
yeah,
quick hands like that.
and he has some power too. It's like, yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Otherwise, he wouldn't be able to do what he did to Joshua. So, yeah,
Yeah. That is true. That is true. And he caught Joshua, and Joshua got a little bit excited after his knockdown and
yeah.
suffered the consequences of it.
And I believe everyone in England was already celebrating when he put Ruiz down. It was like,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, he won another fight easy, like in 3 rounds. Those,
Yeah.
yeah, I mean,
And
yeah,
I could see why people expected him, to get that victory with Reed having lost to Josh or Joseph Parker and Anthony Joshua having already defeated him. Speaking of
yeah,
Parker, I feel like he was a hot name that has pretty much all but dwindled at this point,
mm,
and
yeah,
I wonder if he'll ever get another title shot.
yeah. I don't know. He's got some problems or issues, because I expected him to do better. Also against White,
Oh
he
yeah,
he seemed to be quite in bad shape until the very last couple rounds when he put White down. But before that, he was simply not doing enough, and yeah, that was a weird fight. Simply.
yeah, he seems to have lost his punch in the sense that, when they always say that fighters they don't want to pull the trigger. I don't know why he was reluctant to do so against Anthony Joshua. And I know that was the same
Yeah,
downfall against White, even though I don't recall him even taking any major shots or anything of that nature. So I don't know why that's the case.
yeah, I don't know really myself. It seems like he didn't want to. He wanted to box with Joshua. That might have been a mistake. Uh,
Yeah. And it was an
anyway,
ugly fight. It was an ugly fight for
yeah, it
sure.
was very ugly, very unentertaining fight.
Yeah.
So, but of course, he became the first, I believe, guy to go the distance against Joshua. So
Oh yeah.
he
Yeah, I
got
believe you're right.
some credentials.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a shame because I think Parker is maybe the nicest guy
Oh
out there
yeah.
in
Oh
boxing. He's
yeah, he is a good guy, and I like the from New Zealand. I like that culture and all that they have going on there overall, and I think he could
yeah,
be a very good ambassador for the sport.
yeah, definitely. I just hope that he can get some kind of. But it's not easy when you live in New Zealand and you have to travel so far away all the time.
So yeah, that
And
is true.
maybe he doesn't have the very best trainer that he could have. I don't know, Kevin Barry. I don't want to really
Yeah,
insult him, but
mhm.
yeah, there are definitely even better trainers than him. But I guess
Yeah, yeah,
he's too loyal to his trainer. Doesn't want to go somewhere else.
Yeah,
So
you do make a good point. Yeah, nobody's really trying to go to New Zealand for a fight, and I
yeah,
don't know
definitely.
what that market's like. I know Australia had, a pretty
Yeah.
decent fight community, but
Mm,
you need to have some type of star there in Australia to get fighters of a certain caliber to go out there. Of course, I
yeah.
know that Cambosos is their talk of Teofimo Lopez going out there, which I think would generate a lot of buzz, similar to when Pacquiao went out there for Jeff Horn, who was
Yeah.
undefeated at the time.
Yeah, it would be a good fight, definitely. I saw Cambosos against Selby not so long ago, and he impressed me, I must say. Yeah, I
Hey,
hadn't heard of it. Yeah,
I was watching that fight. I thought, to be honest with you, I thought Selby pulled it off. Maybe I'm blind.
yeah, it was close. It was close, definitely. But to be completely honest, I didn't really score it. I didn't, so I
Yeah,
can't
I
tell
didn't
if,
either.
yeah. But yeah, it was. It just seemed to me that Cambosos showed a little more. Yeah, he was a little bit more
Yeah, yeah,
aggressive,
yeah. That is definitely
especially
the
in
case.
the later rounds. Yeah, so he was. Yeah, that won
Yeah,
him
and
over the
I've
judges.
I've never really been a big fan of Lee Selby. I think he fought the type of fight he always fights. So I could see that
Yeah,
being the case as far as I think he's more
just
defensive than anything. He definitely
yeah,
uses his jab well, but he's definitely not the most exciting of fighters. So taking that into account, I could definitely see why, because Cambosos was certainly the aggressor. He was throwing the shots with authority, at least trying to land the harder punches.
yeah, yeah. And just after New Year, we have a very good lightweight fight. It's Ryan Garcia versus Luke Campbell.
Oh yeah,
Yeah. What do you think about that?
I think that's a very good fight. Very good fight. From all accounts, very good boxers. Definitely Luke Campbell being an Olympian and all that. I've always liked Luke Campbell. My only knock on him, and I don't know if it's necessarily a knock, is I just don't feel like he has that killer instinct, that dog in him that I would like to see at times. Even though he's tough, he can definitely last the distance. Of course, as he showed, he'll get up off the canvas as he showed with Linares.
Mm,
He showed that he'll be tough and hang in there as he showed with Lomachenko. Uh, but I just feel like sometimes, and this is just my view, he seems content, when that pressure's on, and he doesn't necessarily
mm,
elevate himself. And for all the knocks on Ryan Garcia, it seems like he's definitely for the big lights and the major moments. And thus far, we can, even though this will be his toughest test, when he has stepped up into what was considered to be that step up fight, when the light was shining on him, he was headlining. He has delivered, and I think that that is going to see him through in this Luke Campbell fight. I think that Garcia views himself as a star,
mm.
and I think he's going to fight like such. And Luke Campbell, and knock on wood, and maybe this isn't the case, I think he's gonna fight like a guy who's fighting against a star.
Yeah, yeah. That's like he fought against Lomachenko.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah. That's the the problem with I would say with even in general maybe with all European fighters. Sometimes it seems like they are too overcome with that the fact that they are fighting, a
yeah,
big star from USA, or
yeah,
even Mexico or whatever. So perhaps it just kind of uh, goes into their mind too much or messes with their mind a little bit. So
yeah,
they kind of start you know, too carefully, too cautiously, and then maybe as the fight goes on, they start to turn it up, but by then it can be too late, to win.
Yeah, I would say definitely more so for the Western Europeans because
Yeah,
the Eastern Europeans they have that type of mentality that I'm speaking of.
yeah, warrior.
But yeah, definitely. Like, look at all the Uzbek guys out there who
Yeah,
are just coming in, taking boxing by storm right now. And of course, Russia, we have plenty of fighters
yeah,
like that. But I
yeah.
throw
Those
Luke Kimball
guys.
into that category you're mentioning.
Yeah, it's mostly for the ones from UK and yeah,
I would.
Germany and
I was gonna say I throw German fighters into that mix as well.
yeah, they can be
Very
very
good boxers
yeah,
fundamentally, but when that going gets tough, they
yeah,
don't
they
have
just
that
back back off.
mean streak in them. No mean
Yeah,
streak. That's what.
yeah, that's true. In Eastern Europe, there has always been. I know because I am also from Eastern Europe.
Oh yeah.
There's a quite different mentality because the way of life is also quite different. It's not so wealthy as the Western
Oh
Europe.
yeah.
You
Yeah,
got
I've seen your Eastern European mean streak on Facebook.
yeah, yeah, that's right. And I'm like that guy, Babic, Mr. Alan Babic. Have you heard?
Oh yeah, Babic.
Yeah, he's
I like him.
yeah, he's got a lot of character and
Oh yeah, he
spirit.
very much does. He comes in there just gunning, ready to knock somebody out every time. He
Yeah,
doesn't slow down.
yeah.
I think
So far,
it's gonna play
yeah,
into his downfall eventually. But for as long as it's lasting right now, I'm enjoying it.
yeah. I think there are talks about him fighting Lucas Brown or something. I don't know.
mm.
Uh, I would really love to see him fight someone that is a little bit better.
Yeah,
He's not
and
a big guy for that.
yeah, that's what I was gonna say because he's like 20 something, right? Like 202, 203 ish, like not too far
Yeah,
from cruiserweight.
I don't know his weight, but he's 6'1", tall. Yeah, I
Like I
guess
could,
he's maybe I don't know 215 at best, something like that.
okay, I know it's the low 200s,
But
and
he says that he never like does those how do you call it uh, the what you do in the gym, like he never does those exercises like you know sit-ups and
oh
push-ups.
yeah,
He
like
just trains with his boxing bag and you know
he doesn't do any like the calisthenics and any of the weight
yeah,
training or any of that stuff.
yeah, and you can see he's not in bad shape, but he's not very
Yeah,
like he doesn't have that six pack very perfect.
yeah,
So
yeah, yeah. Yeah, so he definitely an interesting and exciting fighter, and yeah, every time he fights, I found myself tuning in just because I know that he's gonna bring it, and I think that he'll be pretty decent as long as he can take a shot from some of those stronger punches, and if he can keep his stamina pumping out the way he has done thus far, and take it into later rounds, then
yeah,
hey, who knows?
yeah, I mean there is some grudge between him and Fergovic, so
Oh
that
yeah,
fight,
that would be a
fight.
good one. Hey, I like that. That's an interesting style class. Herkovich being definitely more of the traditional sort of European, from a fundamental standpoint, European boxer, and not being very fast, strong definitely,
Yeah,
but not very fast. And Babic being having more speed for sure, and a higher motor. It would be interesting.
he's just like a Mike Tyson type of fighter.
Yeah,
Bobby
yeah.
just goes in there and bangs away, and yeah,
Yeah, he is pretty funny, and that made me think of when you were saying he doesn't do that stuff. I was thinking about the fact we were talking about earlier Anthony Yard. He recently lost to this
yeah,
guy last name Arthur, but apparently Anthony Yard doesn't spar with actual boxers. He just does pad type stuff. That's the thing that's being tossed around there. And
That's
I know they always mention that no one ever has known a top fighter who didn't spar.
wow. That's pretty stupid, I must say.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, and I don't know if you caught that. I caught the latter part of his fight. I need to go back and watch it where he lost, but he was super pissed off when he actually lost the fight. But that was funny to see. But I'm not surprised if you're not sparring, and plus I think he may have kind of fell victim to his hype, and I know Frank Warren was expecting
Yeah.
big things out of him. But that being
Yeah.
said, that competition stepped up. What are you gonna do?
Yeah.
You looked the part.
Yeah, and he always looked like he had a big ego to me. I mean, yeah,
Yeah,
from his photos, simply,
yeah, yeah.
you know, got a lot of such, yeah, bad, bad, uh, yeah, whatever.
Without a doubt. And yeah, and so it'll be interesting to see where he goes from here. See if he can rebound. Maybe they'll do a rematch, and we'll see where he goes from there. But yeah, I don't think he's a major threat at light heavyweight as far as title contention. But I'd like to see him against, say, Joshua Buatsi, and I'd
Yeah,
favor Buatsi.
that's a good fighter, I think so too. He looks pretty dangerous now, right now.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And in his last fight, I know when his eye got messed up, it was swollen and everything. I thought he showed some good resolve. He stuck in there and ended up pulling out that W, getting that. I think he got a stoppage, if I'm not mistaken. And that guy that he was going up against was a tall, rangy fighter, and he had a good showing. And I thought that was a very good step up fight for him, a good test for him. Um,
Yeah. Yeah, I wonder if anyone can be a match for Beterbiev because he simply looks invincible right now.
yeah,
Uh, up,
yeah, he is going to be fighting on January 30th. Oh yeah, we saw that against that guy. I don't even know his name, but yeah, someone. He's fighting against someone on January 30th who he should beat.
oh, oh, I don't know who that might be, but I will
His
check.
name's like Dinez or something like that. I've never heard of him, which you never know. He could be the next big thing, but I'm not expecting such.
You
So
know, there has been some clamoring for him fighting Bivol, Dmitry Bivol.
So here's the funny thing. I was gonna get with you. I reached out to Bivol's manager to set up an interview, right? And he got back with me. I could do the interview, but because he speaks German, and I know Bivol, he will speak English, and he's been working on it, and he'll need some interpretation of all that stuff. They took the questions via writing, so I'm waiting for them to get back with me. It's going to be interesting to see what he says. But I did ask him about some of the stuff related to fighting Bivol, even moving down to fight Canelo, or
Hmm.
even if it's a catch weight or whatever. And I did see, but since then I did see where Boxing Scene had an interview or whatever, and I didn't read the entire article, but to paraphrase, I know there was one sequence in there where Bevo mentioned that he was only interested in big fights and he wasn't fighting to just be fighting any fight, and he was only looking
Yeah.
for a big fight. So I think it'll be interesting when those questions come back to kind of see what his
You
thoughts
know what?
are.
What's weird about him? He at first he looked like a, a knockout artist, but then
Mm-hmm.
he just started winning on points, and I think his last 5 fights or something he won on points. So
Mm-hmm.
that's like I don't know. Maybe he changed his style as he moved up in class or whatever. I mean, level of opponents. but
Yeah,
he hasn't.
I've seen him. I've seen him in person, been next to him and stuff, and he's a light heavyweight. And I get what he's saying in terms of him not being a big light heavyweight. He's not big as far as mass is concerned,
Yeah,
and I think that can even be seen. So I think he could legitimately go down to 168 as he says he does. And I thought that him and Beterbiev were the best light heavyweights for a long period now.
yeah,
I've thought Beterbiev for definitely a long period since I saw the way he took out Tavares Cloud for sure. And
yeah.
um, and I think Bivol might be, the best boxer out of the bunch. Uh,
Mhm.
so it would make for an interesting style. I do wonder how Bivol would handle the power of the Turbiev, which is real.
Yeah, definitely. As real as it gets.
Yeah, yeah. And as some mentioned, if Canelo is going to make a statement fight like "I am the best fighter of this generation, bar none," if he took on Bivol or not Bivol, but Beterbiev and beat him, then I think that
Yeah, but
hey, his Hall of Fame career is pretty much sealed.
yeah, I think he said that he would stay at 168 in
Yeah,
the interview before this fight. Yeah, I think that's the best thing for him because to fight somebody who punches as hard as Beterbiev, I don't think he
yeah,
could take his shots. I mean, no
yeah,
way.
yeah,
He's
yeah,
not
yeah.
that tough.
Yeah, Kovalev, that was a strategic matchup for sure, just given
Yeah,
where Kovalev was in his career.
yeah, and it was a guy past his peak, so uh,
Yeah, yeah, but
so
that would be interesting. So yeah, we'll see what happens as far as what Beterbiev does after this defense. I'm guessing it's some mandatory or something of that nature. So it
mm,
should be interesting. But I think that yeah, light heavyweight. There's still a lot of interesting fights to be made. I wanted to see him Beterbiev take on Joe Smith Jr. because I think that
yeah,
stylistically they just seem to be made for an exciting fight where someone is going to get dropped a couple of times before it's
yeah.
ultimately stopped.
I think that would be amazing, an amazing fight. And Smith has just he has proven that he has improved, I guess, also
Yeah,
recently.
yeah.
Uh, who did he knock out last? It was a rather big name.
Yeah, he knocked out. So he knocked out Elider Alvarez,
But
and
yeah,
he wasn't just knocked out. He was just basically pummeling him. He just beat him,
oh yeah,
bludgeoning him with hard shots. And people were waiting
yeah.
for Alvarez to sort of turn it on, and he never did. I guess because of that power.
Yeah, that was a really big victory for Smith. Yeah.
Yeah. And prior to that, he looked good beating Jesse Hart,
Oh yeah.
who had moved up to light heavyweight. And I
Mm,
guess that shows Bivol's class as a boxer, the fact that he was able to thoroughly outbox Joe Smith Jr., even though he
mm.
got caught in like that 11th, 10th, 11th, or one of those later rounds. I can't remember which round he got caught. But outside of that, he pretty much outboxed Joe Smith Jr. But I think Joe Smith Jr. has come on to show that, hey, that may have happened, but I'm still a legitimate player.
Yeah, he definitely is. I mean, he always has the puncher's chance, and yeah, that's what's so exciting with punchers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
All right.
and
You look. Yeah.
I was gonna
I
say
was.
one last thing. I saw, we were talking
Yeah.
about it. Gilberto Ramirez. I haven't seen the fight, but I saw he got a win or something of that nature this weekend. He was at light heavyweight, so it'll be interesting to see if his name is
Oh.
thrown out there with any of these fighters.
All right. Nice. Nice.
Indeed. But
Yeah.
yeah, it's been a good time. I know we've been on what for an hour, maybe an hour and a half or something of that nature.
Yeah. Maybe hour 15 minutes. I don't know, something like that.
Okay, cool, cool. I guess that's
Yeah,
a shorter one, you know, compared to some of the others.
yeah. We had like almost 2 hour uh yeah, podcasts or whatever.
All right,
Yeah.
cool. Well,
Cool.
yeah, we'll have to do it again. We'll definitely end this one, and we'll touch base, of course, at a later time.
Sure. No problem.